Ohai. Mauritius, the island state in South Africa. According to the Union, treats East Africa, according to CIA, South Africa. It is located in the southwest part of the Indian Ocean, approximately in 900 km to the east from Madagascar. The islands of Mauritius are a part of the Republic. The largest, 1865 km. With the population in 1.2 million people. And Rodriguez, 104 km. Being a part of the archipelago of Mascarene Islands and also the archipelago Cargotas Caracas, Islands Idalega and a set of small islands. The total area of the country is 2040 km. The capital, the city of Port Louis, located on the island of Mauritius. The country received the name on the largest island. This island was opened in the 10th century by Arabs and received the name Dino Arabi, and at the beginning of the 16th century on the Portuguese seafarers landed and called in honor of one of the Cisne ships. Port Cisne, Swan. In 1598 the island was occupied by Dutches who renamed it in honor of a shotgolfer of the country of Maurits Oranski. 1567-1625. In a Latin form of his name Mauritius. With 1715 the island took over France and was renamed into Isle de France. The island of France, and in 1810 is occupied by Great Britain, which returned in the name Mauritius. The island of Mauritius has volcanic origin. However, volcanic activity stopped long ago, and the erosion strongly smoothed an island relief. The central Kierpet Plateau towers above sea level on 400-600 am. From the north, the west and the southwest it is adjoined by more raised and less leveled plateaus. The highest of them, the Savannah. The highest point, peak of Petit Rivière Noir, 826 m. Occupies the southwest of the island. Internal plateaus are surrounded with a strip of coastal plains, in the south and the east 15-20 km wide. On these plains with fertile alluvial soils and also in valleys of the plateau the plantations of a sugar cane occupying 45% of total area of Mauritius are concentrated. The climate is tropical, sea. The island lies on the way of the tropical cyclones arising over open spaces of the Indian Ocean. Almost annually in February-March they bring down on the island heavy winds which speed reaches 220 km/h, and downpours causing catastrophic floods. The first colonists planted on Mauritius spices, the French, coffee, British, tea. All these cultures could yield a fine harvest if cyclones didn't destroy landing. And only stalks of a sugar cane maintain an element's impact. Average water temperature all the year round doesn't fall below 23 C. At such temperatures on fertile soils the sugar cane yields very big crops. On seaside plains in a year 1500-2500 m of rainfall drop out. By the plateau the amount of precipitation increases to 3500 m, and average temperatures go down on 3-4 C. Only there, under cover of mountains, landings of other cultures, in particular tea, tobacco, and agave are possible. Plateaus and the mountains of Mauritius are cut through by hundreds of the small rivers abounding with thresholds and falls. The 7 Tamarin Falls have the greatest spillway, 274 meters. The most considerable rivers of Mauritius are Grand River Southeast and Grand River Northwest. In the period of rains of the river turn into prompt mountain streams. The largest lakes of the island Grand Bassin and Mauritius. From natural sites craters of extinct volcanoes. True surf, the Kanaka Bassin Blanc. And the platea stopped with the mountain tops, unusual in a form, sometimes having interesting names or interesting. For example, within the Rivière Noire Plateau there are tops the thumb, the pass, the cat and the mouse, 3 nipples. Intensive operation of land resources of the island in combination with growth of population led to the fact that natural landscapes occupy less than a quarter of Mauritius square now. At the same time they remain mainly in the southwest part of the island, are covered with a wild blackthorn, are in general deprived of vegetation and occupied with lilac and red volcanic sands. The dense woods which were once covering heights with valuable breeds of trees are cut down long ago and were replaced by plantings of the canary pine and eucalyptuses. Along east coast mangroves remained. Because of destruction of natural vegetation, populations of a part of local types are undermined, including an endemic of Mauritius of Acanthonyx rubra palm tree. Here on the island no more than 150 copies remained. In the cities, settlements and along roads the ornamental plants delivered on the island prevail. These are jacarandas, acacias, sycamore, oleanders, hibiscuses, red jasmines. Along beaches, landings of beef woods. On the coast, near settlements, groves of a coconut palm often meet. The uniqueness of Mauritius and the neighboring islands consisted that owing to their big remoteness from other land areas, before arrival Europeans of people weren't there. The fauna of Mauritius, in that look in what it was found by the first travelers, differed in extraordinary large number of endemic types which representatives weren't afraid of people and had the lowered protection against predators. For example, a number of bird species didn't fly absolutely or flew badly. The majority of these types were savagely exterminated by seamen, settlers and the animals. The cats, dogs and rats who were inevitably living by the sailing ships. Brought by them in the first centuries after opening of the island. Nevertheless, some endemic types lived up to our time thanks to efforts of naturalists, such as Gerald Darrell, who not only was engaged in preservation of fauna of Mauritius, but also described the island and the efforts in an entertaining form in the book, called Fruit Bats and Pink Pigeons, published as well in Russian. The most known look which died out on Mauritius because of people not flying bird, a dodo. Dodo is considered. According to the first Dutch settlers, valleys of the island literally teemed with these birds weighing up to 15 kg. Dodos admitted people to themselves closely, and those slaughtered birds with sticks. They delivered rats, cats and pigs, also promoted dodos' extermination. By 1710 dodos were completely exterminated. However, business wasn't limited to them. The first settlers were struck by abundance huge overland skulls, Silentraspis inepta and C. Tricerata, and richness of the world of birds. Turtles were destroyed by pirates and seamen who, passing by the ships by Mauritius, by all means came on the island to fill the holds. These live canned food. Development of the island led to sharp reduction of number of other birds. Therefore on sugar plantations records, a sugar louse and a red locust began to breed actively. for fight against them delivered mane from India, and now ordinary mane, the representative of the bird's kingdom who is most extended on the island. On the island mongooses, a huge number of rodents and a monkey were also delivered. As a result from primordial fauna almost nothing remained. Nevertheless, the National Park of Black River Gorses where relic pink pigeons, the Mauritius kestrel, the Mauritius red-breasted parakeets remained operates on the island. Also near Mauritius there is a small island reserve round where unique reptiles are found. Telfers Saint-Sinki, Gunter's gecko and Mascarenski boa of Schlegel. Being in the Indian Ocean approximately on the 20th parallel to the south from the equator, Mauritius has tropical monsoonal climate with a long damp season. It is expressed December-May, Nevires and June-August. And short rather dry season. September-November. The change of seasons on Mauritius also takes place. This summer on Mauritius hot and damp, is slightly more cool winter also to the land. Very high or very low temperatures for Mauritius are uncharacteristic. It is above +35 C in summer and below +10 C in the winter. Temperature doesn't rise and doesn't fall respectively. The desert island of Mauritius was opened at the beginning of the 16th century by Portuguese. According to the widespread version, Fernando Chemiranda Regional Public Institution in 1510. And received the name Cishna, by name one of the Portuguese ships. In 1598 the island was occupied by Dutches and received the name in a Latin form of Moritz or Ansky. Originally the island served only as the temporary parking for the trade ships. The pioneer settlement of Dutches on the island arose in 1638, and Simon van der Stel is considered the first child born on the island. Plantations of a sugar cane, a cotton, tobacco began to be created, to get divorced the cattle. Slaves from Madagascar were for this purpose delivered. The number of inhabitants of the island in the years of the Dutch colonization reached about 300 people, including slaves. However, in 1710 Dutches left Mauritius, escaping from invasion of the bread rats who got on the island from the European ships. In 1715 the island takes over France and is renamed into Ile de France. In 1721 the French founded the first constant settlement on the island. For years of the French colonization to Ile de France several forts were constructed, ways are paved, the shipyard is built. In 1735 the population of the island totaled nearly 1,000 people. 200 white, the others slaves from Africa and Madagascar. In the second half of the 18th century to Ile de France groups of colonists of the French provinces of Brittany and Normandy moved. New parties of slaves from Africa and Madagascar were at the same time imported. Work of slaves was applied on plantations of a sugar cane, coffee. On the island began to grow up corn, cassavas, a clove tree, indigo, various vegetables and fruit. In 1802-1810 the Governor-General Charles Deccan operated the island. Situation in the East Indies was at the time for the French difficult. The English fleet surpassed French, communication can do and the more so trade with the mother country was irregular. Nevertheless, in these circumstances to the general Deccan, relying on support of the French planters, it was succeeded to turn Mauritius into a strategic strong point of France in the Indian Ocean. Without having enough the ships of the military fleet, Deccan patronized privateering, having turned Mauritius into base of the pirates attacking the English merchant ships, and breaking the English trade.
Moreover, on raid of the capital of Mauritius, the French fleet of the Commodore Dupère gained one of the few victories over the English fleet which became history as fight in Grand Port.
Only in 1810, for the 8th year of governorship of Deccan, British collected enough forces to organize an attack on Ile-de-France defended by Deccan. Battle came to an end. Honorable capitulation of the French. Deccan and his people were sent on the English vessels to France. After the victory won by the English troops over the French garrisons, the island took over Britain. In 1814, under the Parisian Contract, Ile-de-France officially became the British colony, and to it the name Mauritius is returned. By the beginning of the English colonization, the population of Mauritius made about 70,000 people, of them over 50,000 slaves. In 1835, slavery was cancelled. By then the number of slaves made 77,000, of 96,000 inhabitants.
For agricultural works to Mauritius from 1830 years began to import workers from India.
Even earlier, since 1829, workers from China began to arrive. By 1861, the number of immigrants of the Indian origin reached nearly 300,000. On Mauritius, production of sugar quickly increased, cultivation of tea, tobacco began. The island Rodrigues was opened in 1528 by the Portuguese seafarer Dom Diego Rodrigues. In 1691-1693 it was occupied by Dutches. In the 18th century it is colonized by the French, who imported black slaves on the plantations. From 1810 to 1968 British, then it became possession of the state. Mauritius owned the island.
March 12, 1968, Mauritius was announced by independent constitutional monarchy as a part of the British Commonwealth.
Elizabeth II became the Queen of Mauritius.
Since the beginning of 1968, collisions between representatives of an Asian part of the population and blacks began to happen to mulattoes. In 1970-1971 there took place large strikes in many sectors of economy, with requirements of increase in salary. In December 1971 the government of Mauritius imposed state of emergency operating continuously till March 1978.
Leaders of the Radical Party of the Left, the Mauritius Fighting Movement, MAME, were arrested. The activity of the labor unions connected with this party is banned.
In 1976 party MAME achieved success on elections, but her coming to power was blocked by the coalition of the Labour Party Civisagar Rambil Am and the Right Social Democrats of Gate and Davao. By results of elections of 1982 party MAME created the government led by Anirudh Jugnauth. On March 12, 1992 Mauritius became the Republic.
Republic. The head of state, the president elected by parliament for 5 years. The second term in a row is possible. The parliament is unicameral, 70 deputies. 62 are chosen the population for 5 years, 8 more are appointed electoral commission from representatives of various ethnic communities.
By results of elections in December 2014 in Parliament, political parties are represented.
Mauritius has armed forces numbering about 20,000 people, which are used for elimination of consequences of natural cataclysms, typhoons, and represent a certain analogue of forces of the Ministry of Emergency Situations. There are police special troops and sea patrol service. The Republic of Mauritius is subdivided into 9 administrative districts and external islands, including 3 dependent territories and 2 more, being under foreign sovereignty, which is challenged by Mauritius. Mauritius officially applies for Chagos Archipelago, the British territory in the Indian Ocean, and on the island of Tromelin belonging to France.
Population
1,277,824 inhabitants. December 2020. 1,295,789 inhabitants. On July 1, 2013. 1,293,549 inhabitants. On January 1, 2013. 1,291,456 inhabitants.
On July 1, 2012.
1,288,684 inhabitants.
On January 1, 2012.
630,872 men. 49.4%. As of 2021. 646,962 women. 50.6%. As of 2021. 21.80% is younger than 15 years. 70.7% from 15 to 65 years. 7.5% of 65 years. Been born. 14423 persons. 2020. Dead. 9327 people. 2020. Natural increase of the population. 5096 people. 2020. Total. Birth rate -1.4. 2011. Births only woman. Average life expectancy -74.5 years for of both sexes. 2020. Contamination: a virus of an immunodeficiency. HIV. -1.7%. Assessment for 2007. Literacy level among male adult population is 92.85%. 451,323 persons. Literacy level among female adult population is 88.48%. 452,226 people. Ethno-racial structure. Indo-Mauritians -68%. Métis. The mixed French Afro-Malagasy origin. -27%. Chinese -3%. The French -2%. Languages. On a census of 2000. The Mauritius Creole language -80.5%. Khadzer. Language of Indo-Aryan group. -12.1%. French -3.4%. English. Official. Less than 1%. Other languages -4%. Religions. On a census of 2000. Hindus -48%. Catholics -23.6%. Muslims -16.6%. Protestants -8.6%. Anglicans, Presbyterians, Adventists, believers of the Assemblies of God. Others -2.5%. Mauritius is a place where various cultures adjoin that finds reflection in architecture of the country. In the capital, the Mosque du Yuma, the Hindu temple Mesquite and Christian cathedral of St. James adjoin. Slightly less than a half of inhabitants of Mauritius, 48%, profess Hinduism. Christians of about 32%, from which the majority Catholics, whereas the others Protestants. About 17% of the population practice Islam.
About 3% are the share of adherents of other religions, atheists and persons who didn't specify religious affiliation.
Most of Creoles, Christians. Almost all Muslims and Hindus, the Indian origin. Hindus speak Marathi languages, Tamil, Odia, Khadza and Telugu, Hindi. The minority is presented by the persons of the Chinese origin who adopted Christianity. Catholicism. Also there are followers of the Buddhism and Confucianism. The Constitution of Mauritius doesn't specify official language, and inhabitants of the island speak on Creole Mauritian. The Mauritius Creole. English or French. Only in Parliament official language accepted English, though members of National Assembly can express also in French.
However, in general, English is considered to be official language of Mauritius as language of the government, administration and legal proceedings.
In everyday life, inhabitants of Mauritius can choose communication language depending on a situation. In a house situation, it is most often used Creole or Khadza. In business and a business situation, it is applied French or Creole, English, at schools and managements. The majority of newspapers and media use French. Creole Mauritian, on whom speak to 90% of the population, often is considered the native language of Mauritians and is used in an informal situation most often. It developed in the 18th century among the slaves speaking on a pidgin language among themselves and with the French owners who didn't understand various African dialects. For several generations the pidgin became a habitual norm of communication. Creole Mauritian is based on French and maintains the French pronunciation as well dictionary structure. The economy of Mauritius is based on production of sugar. The sugar cane is grown up approximately for 90% of the processed farmlands. On tourism and the textile industry, that is it by the second country on the standard of living in Africa, after Seychelles, and 3 on DDD per capita, after Equatorial Guinea and Seychelles. Recently, offshore and banking business and also production and processing of seafood, fishes develops. DDD per capita in 2015, $19.6 thousand. The 61st place in the world. It is lower than the level of poverty, -8% of the population. In 2006. Unemployment -7.1%. 2017. In agriculture 9% working or engaged in the industry -30%, in services industry -61%. Export goods $2.52 billion in 2017. Textile and sewing goods 30.8%. Fish and fish products 14%. Refined sugar 10%. Oil products 5.9%. The main buyers: France 15%, the USA 11%, Great Britain 9%, Zambia 8.1%, the Republic of South Africa 7.9%. Import $5.59 billion in 2017. Industrial goods, food, oil products, chemicals. The main suppliers: China 16%, India 15%, France 11%, the Republic of South Africa 9.2%, Japan 3.2%. The Act enters into the International Organization of the Countries. Despite remoteness, Mauritius has great popularity among the European tourists, being one of the most beautiful and expensive tourist resorts along with Maldivian and the Seychelles. On Mauritius, beach vacation is widespread in the basic, but also excursions to the ocean are popular, is more rare, deep into than the island. One of natural sights are so-called 7-color sands. The State Broadcasting Company, MPB. Mauritius Broadcasting Corporation N, the Mauritius Broadcasting Corporation. Includes MPB1 and MPB2 TV channels, radio stations Radio Mauritius, Music FM and others. Also far. Write comments. Read comments. Interesting people will tell interesting stories. All of good mood and good luck.